All right, so those were the headlines, and now on to our top story. The question we are asking with this story is, are you paying for your cheap groceries with your health? Well, in a shocking revelation, the FDA has suspended Zepto's food license after uncovering serious lapses in food safety at one of its dark stores in Maharashtra. In fact, fungal growth on food, unhygienic conditions. Is the rush for 10-minute delivery coming at the cost of your well-being? As quick commerce race heats up, ladies and gentlemen, this development raises urgent questions about what's really going on behind those dark store doors. My colleague Anjali Palod has filed more details on what really transpired at one of Zepto's dark stores in Mumbai. Let's take a look at this report.
I am outside the Food and Drugs Administration office in Mumbai, and this is the authority which conducted the inspections at the Zepto warehouse in Dharavi and found multiple lapses in terms of food safety, following which the authority has suspended the food license for the company in the Dharavi area. Now, these lapses include certain fungal growth on certain food items, improper maintenance of cold storage temperatures, inadequate separation of expired and fresh stock at their facility, and food products being stored directly on the floors. Now, these are the multiple lapses following which the food license for the company has been suspended. FDA says that this suspension will remain in effect until the establishment achieves full compliance and receives a clearance from the licensing authority. Now, the FDA also says that they will be conducting more inspections and raids across warehouses in the city, and this will be done on a complaint basis. Due to a shortage of manpower, a full-fledged operation has not been launched yet, but the FDA says that in the coming months, with the induction of more food safety officers, close to 500 inspections will be carried out by the authority every month. Now, responding to the suspension of this license, a Zepto spokesperson has said that they have initiated an internal review and they are working closely with the authorities to ensure that they achieve full compliance with the norms.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this even as Zepto is expected to go public in the next couple of months. But serious lapses have been found by the FDA in Maharashtra. And of course, my colleague Anjali Palod was bringing us that report with the details of the charges that have been leveled against one of Zepto's dark stores. In fact, she also caught up with the FDA commissioner earlier in the day to know more about the steps that have been taken by the commission.
The next step is up to the company. They have been served with the improvement notice. There we have mentioned what are the discrepancies, so they can fulfill the requirement as given in the improvement notice, and they can file an appeal that they have complied all the discrepancies, so that we can think it about revoking the license.
Right. And also in terms of expanding this inspection to other warehouses or warehouses of other companies, is there something in the works at FDA?
Yes, we are also thinking of getting inspected all such warehouses and the major IPOs, not only in Mumbai but in MMR and whole of the Maharashtra.
Right now, it's a suspension of their license, but if it is found that it is happening in multiple warehouses, will the license be terminated at any point?
So that will depend how proactively they fulfill the improvement notice. If they are really very serious and able to fulfill all the parameters of FSSI, then there will not be termination, but we can revoke. But if they don't come forward and don't proactively comply all the formalities, then maybe some different decision can be taken.
All right, so Zepto now has 15 days to make an appeal, and that's the word coming in from the FDA commissioner, the FDA representative who spoke to my colleague Anjali Palod. And ladies and gentlemen, let's take this discussion forward with Rekha Aggarwal, who's a consumer advocate. Thank you very much, Ms. Aggarwal, for joining us here on ET Now. Now, several allegations have been leveled against Zepto, against one of its dark stores. And of course, we also heard the FDA representative talk about that. And, you know, now that they have 15 days to make an appeal. But if I remember correctly, according to several news reports, in November of 2024, FSSAI had asked and mandated quick commerce and e-commerce companies. How is this issue then continuing to exist, given that it's not the first time that these concerns have been raised?
Sumita, there's a very old saying that haste makes waste. And so I think that these companies, these e-commerce companies, are now actually, trying to fulfill unrealistic targets, and they make promises which are very hard to keep. And in the rush, or rather, I would say in the rat race, the quality is given a go by, and they neglect the basic fundamentals that each of these companies, as food supply companies particularly, have to maintain, as has been mandated by FSSAI. But all these rules and regulations and guidelines which are given by FSSAI probably just remain on paper. And these companies, these e-commerce companies and these quick commerce companies, which particularly now in metro cities, and not only in metro cities, but even in 2-tier, into 3-tier cities, smaller towns also, or such companies like Zepto, etc., Blinkit are all coming up. And one of the main reasons that they're surviving is because in the fast race that people are, fast life that people are leading, people don't have the time to go and shop, and spend time in the market to buy their groceries, particularly groceries. So I think that Zepto is trying to fulfill their dreams of, having a happy kitchen going and their happy good lives, But the FSSAI mandatory directions should have been maintained. And as this inspection by FDA has shown, that there has been an absolute total ignorance and total, ignorance of the laws and total disrespect of the laws. Probably such laws have been followed in the breach. And that is why, as your, the short clips that you have showed and various other channels are showing, that, they have absolutely ignored the basic fundamental requirements of maintaining hygiene, maintaining cleanliness. Expired goods are there in the counters, and the goods have been kept in unhygienic, damp conditions. They've been kept on the floor. So I think that the rules and regulations need to be followed strictly, particularly where food items are concerned, because they directly impact the health of the consumers. And as a consumer, lawyer, I would say over here that every consumer under the Consumer Protection Act, once he or she buys goods for a consideration, that is, that he or she has paid for it, is not come for free, it's not a gift, then you are entitled to absolute quality, value for money you should get. And if there's a deficiency in service, then there are organizations like the FDA which come in. And as a consumer, you have a right to go to the consumer court and ask for damages for, neglect of your health, wastage of your money, etc.
Right. Ms. Aggarwal, when you say that the consumer has the right to approach a court and, of course, to explore other legal avenues as well, but the question is, why should the consumer need to actually explore these avenues, given the fact that the FSSAI, like I stated, last year itself had given some mandates, and I'm going to read out some of those mandates. It had asked 3 food business operators, reportedly Swiggy, Zomato, Big Basket, to ensure minimum shelf life. Now, there's been a lot of talk around ensuring minimum shelf life. It had also said that they need to adopt best practices to ensure food products are delivered at a minimum remaining shelf life of 30% or 45 days. And it had cautioned against making misleading and unsupported claims online. So I want to ask you, when it comes to perhaps a regulatory crackdown or the legalities, is there a regulatory vacuum when it comes to monitoring these quick commerce platforms? Who exactly is responsible?
I think that the companies themselves are responsible. It is not that the regulatory authorities have not done their job. The FSSAI has also given the guidelines which you just read out. In fact, they're not guidelines, they're rules which have to be mandatorily followed. They're not simply guidelines, these are not directions. These are rules which have to be complied with. And, these are like, basically, I would say, like companies like Zepto, Blinkit, etc., Swiggy, not only these 3 well-known companies, but there's so many fly-by-night companies which are mushrooming all over. So FDA has got a lot of work, in his hands, and they do try to keep checks, and the checks and balances have to be maintained. But I think that I would not say that the authorities have been slack in their duty. I would not say that. It is basically, one expects the companies themselves to follow the rules and not defy them in this manner. They have taken them absolutely in a very lackadaisical manner. There are rules as if they have been made to be flouted. It absolutely seems that. So rules are basically made to be followed. They're not made to be flouted, and they should be followed to the T. Every simple, in the smallest guideline and rule should be followed by these companies. As I said, that especially where the health of the consumer is concerned. And if there's a breach of these rules, then the FDA has taken stringent actions. They've given time to the company. It's not as if they totally blacklisted them. In our country, I would just remind the viewers over here that nobody can be blacklisted without giving a chance to, kind of list like a show cause notice. You're given a chance to improve yourself. So even in this case, the Dharavi facility of Zepto, the license has been cancelled, but Zepto continues to do its business, and they have a time to pull up their socks, do damage control work. And if they do not do so, and if they feel that they've been wrongly penalized and the license has been cancelled, they can file an appeal against it. But I think I would advise them to just to follow the rules, to the hilt, and make sure that the health of people is not compromised.
Absolutely. Ms. Aggarwal, this absolutely is the responsibility. The responsibility and the buck should stop with these quick commerce companies, given the fact that they have expanded at such a rapid pace. Now it is upon them to protect the consumer interest as well. In fact, you were mentioning about Zepto. Well, this is something that came up on Blinkit's warehouse in Telangana last year. It faced hygiene lapses like disorganized and unhygienic premises and expired food items. And that also created quite a ruckus and buzz online. And after that, the company promised that they're going to look into the matter. Similar claims have been made by Zepto as well in that statement. But I want to come back to the point about FSSAI mandating a minimum shelf life of 45 days for food items that are sold online. How effective is this regulation in ensuring consumer safety, and what more can FSSAI do to protect consumer interest?
I think that this 45-day mandatory rule that has been made, I think that is good enough. And even if this rule is being followed, I think that the health of the consumers can be protected. I don't think that there needs to be any further change in the FSSAI rule regarding a 45-day shelf life. A 45-day shelf life meets the standard health requirements also. And if that has been met, I don't think that we have to be particularly more worried about this 45-day mandate. And that, I think, is enough to ensure that the health of the people does not get compromised. And so does the commerce company, which is there to do business. They're obviously there to make money, nothing more. Even they are able to do business, which is their fundamental right to do business. It is the company's birthright to do fundamental right to carry on the business, earn their livelihood, earn money. And it is the customers, the Indian citizens' right also to ensure that he gets value for money and his health is not compromised. So I think that really no further changes can be expected from FSSAI. The 45-day mandate, in my opinion, seems to be good enough. And if only that is followed regarding the shelf life of the food items, I don't think the customers need to worry. Probably there has been a breach of this 45-day mandate also, and that is why this raid, this inspection, I would say, by FDA in Dharavi, itself Dharavi, I would say, is not the best of areas, and it is probably not the best of places to run your go down or warehouse over there. And obviously they've got it for a cheap price, and that is why they have made their warehouse over there. That the company needs to pull up their socks and ensure that hygienic conditions are maintained.
But affordable price or not, it is a company's responsibility to ensure that these dark stores are run properly and that there are no lapses so far as the law is concerned. But legally speaking, I want to understand from you, now that Zepto is also planning to double its dark store expansion, given the kind of boom that we've seen in the quick commerce segment, are quick commerce companies considered intermediaries or retailers under Indian consumer law? And how does then that affect liability?
See, the liability, that's a very good question you asked. And in fact, as where e-commerce companies are concerned, the buck doesn't stop just at the e-commerce companies. And if the customer finds any, deficiency in the product, he has paid for, and booked through this company, Zepto or any other these suppliers, then not only the company, which is this e-commerce company, but even the manufacturer can be hauled up, under the Consumer Protection Act. So the Zepto cannot simply wash its hands off and say that, look, this is what we got and this is what we are kind of, selling further. The chain goes backwards, and so a lot of heads are going to roll, not only Zepto or the commerce company, but even the manufacturer, the retailer, the manufacturer, and not only that, even any person, any celebrity actor or actress if they are promoting such kind of goods, they can also be held up, for giving their, name and their, for these companies to be kind of capitalizing on them. So even these celebrities, who kind of advertise for these companies, they can also be held up. And at the same time, if I may say over here, we have an organization called the CCPA, which is called the Consumer Protection Authority. Even at the Central Consumer Protection Authority, they can also suo moto take action on such kind of e-commerce companies if they are found violating the law in any manner whatsoever.
Does the law provide for then suo moto action?
Yes, the law provides a suo moto action, as I just mentioned about the CCPA, Central Consumer Protection Authority. If it comes to the notice on their own, also, which is called the suo moto action. If a customer reports to the CCPA about any deficiency in service or about any spoiled goods that they have received from Zepto or Blinkit or any such kind of a company, the customer can also make a complaint. And at the same time, if it comes to the notice of CCPA, they can also take suo moto action. They don't have to wait for anybody to complain about it.
Right. Ms. Aggarwal, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your perspectives on this big story. Definitely, it is incumbent upon all of these quick commerce and e-commerce platforms to make sure that while they grow, but that growth cannot come at the cost of consumers' health. On that note, thank you very much once again for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, time now for us to slip